Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is episode 12. But before I start on episode 12, my name is Lori, and this week has been a kind of a challenging week for me. Just a little information for you all. If you, by any chance, have anyone that you know of that might be suffering from a mental illness and they're over the age of 18, at times you have no rights to help those that are in need. But there is some things that you can do legally in order to get these people help and hopefully evaluated to make sure that their needs are met. If you're needing any help with this or learning more about this, how this can be done, please feel free to reach out. Use my mind, use my brain. I don't mind sharing how this can be done. While all of this was happening, I thought of a podcast of how many of us, if we really do some self-awareness, how many of us, when we go through these type of things, how at times we might feel as we're being too needy or we're craving that attention when things not only just get rough, but when we start to feel lonely. And I wanted to share a lot of personal things that I have learned that maybe might help you or might help somebody that you know that might be, kind of suffering from this. And what I mean by this is the fact where sometimes you're in need of attention all the time. I remember being younger, I had this tendency, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had this tendency of wanting to have the attention all the time. And my family and my siblings would always tell me, oh my gosh, you're just like Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. It's all about you. Um, from the Brady Bunch. And at the time, it was so annoying to hear that. But you know what? They were right. They were true. And when I started therapy and I started reading on myself on self-awareness and really being open with what's really going on inside of me, I learned a lot that I wanted to share with you all. In case you all feel this way, you can kind of understand where this is coming from, as well as different coping mechanisms that help at times. It doesn't go away all the time. I still get those insecure moments of needing that attention, but we're going to go into why. I loved it because my therapist at the time, I always thought that I was kind of being, this needy, selfish kind of person, that I always felt that the attention should be mine. But he actually helped me understand that what I was feeling was actually just, being human. And the reason why I was feeling this is because of my experience of all the inconsistency or neglect that I had in relationships before, which started even when I was, young. And these emotional needs that weren't met as I was, growing up in my past relationships, my actual nervous system learned to crave this attention. It was my way of feeling like I was being seen, I was being valued, and it felt safe. It was basically like if my heart was saying, hey, you know what? Notice me. I'm here. I matter. And it's interesting that it's actually a survival mechanism. It's a coping skill that your mind and your brain develop in order to protect ourselves from feeling this invisible feeling of unworthiness. But the key is that we can't be squashing, that need down. We have to learn to understand it. We have to learn how to soothe ourselves when it actually arises. And we have to actually, something I'm still kind of learning, is that not to rely on others to fill that space that I'm feeling at that time. Some really good strategies that have been helpful at the time when I start to feel a little bit of insecurity, and I want to feel a little bit more secure about myself, or I want to feel valued and not get that value from anyone else, but get that value from within, is some self-soothing practices. First of all, is the fact that I really need to pause and really redirect that energy inward and not try to get it from somewhere else. And the way that I do this is, believe it or not, mindful breathing helps. Taking these slow, deep breaths literally calm your nervous system. Because when we're in relationships and we feel like we're either going to be abandoned, or we feel the need that someone, is going to leave, or they're not going to be interested anymore, we go into this fight or flight mode. So therefore, all of this is actually our nervous system that's actually pulling up, because it's a coping mechanism we used when we were younger and what we were taught. Also reminding ourselves and telling ourselves, you know what, I'm enough. We talked about that in another podcast, and telling ourselves, you know what, I'm worthy of love. I am worthy of it. Journaling is absolutely great when you're feeling this. Sometimes putting it on paper helped me to get my mind to release what I'm feeling. Even a simple, I would wrap up in a cozy little blanket, or I would take a warm bath, doing something that I'm actually going to nourish myself. And along with this, internally, I had to really practice recognizing and, telling and celebrating my own, strengths and accomplishments for doing this. Each day, I think it was about 3 months, and I still need to start practicing this now. But for 3 months, my therapist made me write down each day. I had to write down 3 things that I actually liked about myself. And I actually celebrate it with either, I would celebrate these small wins, like either reaching out for help when I really needed it, because I was so like, I'll figure this out by myself. I didn't want to reach out to anybody, or even setting up my own boundaries. Even practicing gratitudes, and we talked about that too in another podcast, that I tell you that those are things that helped me. Also, learning to communicate my needs clearly. We can't read minds. It's funny how I used to be that person that I have thought, well, you know what, you could read my mind. So I've come a long way, honestly, because I don't expect people to read my mind. I try to communicate what my needs are. I try to tell you how I feel. Sometimes I can come off very harsh, but at the time, I'm really trying to express myself. That's why in one of the podcasts, we talked about the I statements. I feel, really alone right now, and, expressing I would love some together time, or, being specific to someone, saying, can I have a call tonight, or, what, I would appreciate a hug. Sharing these type of vulnerabilities, is very important, because that starts to settle that nervous system of that fight or flight mode, because then you start feeling that anxiety of, am I good enough? Am I feeling unworthy at the time? And another thing I had to stop doing, which is, when I start feeling this, I would withdraw, or I would test people. And testing in different type of ways, and it's wrong. It's really wrong to be doing that. It puts another person in an uncomfortable situation, and it's not healthy at all. And those are things that I honestly still need to practice now, because of the fact that that little girl inside of me is still there. It's crazy, even working all these years, almost 15 years, 15 to 20 years of therapy, it's still there, and it's still consistent. The only difference is now I know when it's coming up, and now I know that I need to work on it and really make changes within myself. Also, I had to learn, to set healthy boundaries, and telling people that, it's okay, or step back when they feel very draining. And also, we talked about this, about surrounding ourselves with people that actually uplift you and respect you. Wanting to have this attention is a very natural thing, but the goal is that we need to keep it balanced, and we need to stop trying to get it from others. We need to learn how to comfort and value ourselves as well. And it's a journey, guys. It's a very hard journey that I'm still working on today. And if you're taking the steps of awareness and you know that this is what you're doing, those are really some brave steps. I mean, they really are. It's hard to tell someone that, you know what, I suffer from this, neediness. I suffer from this insecurities that I have. And it takes a lot of guts to tell someone that, as well as it takes a lot of guts to realize that we need to learn how to calm our own nervous system. We need to learn how to reduce this emotional overwhelmness. We need to feel grounded, and we need to learn how to stay safe inside of ourselves, which is usually our mind. um, some other techniques that really helped a lot were physical techniques. I would literally sit down or lie comfortably. I would close my eyes and I would take some really slow, deep breaths in through my nose for a count of 4. And then I would hold it for 2 seconds. And then I would exhale slowly for the count of 6. And I would repeat this about 10 to 15 times. And what I learned with this, guys, which is amazing when you start getting to know your body more in and out, is that this activates our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's exactly what we're doing when we're holding that breath and breathing, is that we are reactivating that nervous system that's making us feel this anxiety. This is what's helping our anxiety calm down. Another thing physically, when I started to feel this, is I would actually have to look around and name 5 things that I could see, 4 things that I can listen, that I can hear or listen. I had to touch 3 things, smell 2 things, and taste 1 thing. So a good example of this is when I started to feel that anxiety or unworthiness or that insecurity of feeling that I needed this attention for someone else to calm me down instead of myself. I literally had to look around and look to see what I was looking at. So I would be, okay, I see a bed, I see a chair, I see a plant, I see my dog, I see a blanket. So those would be 5 things that I can see. And then 4 things that I could hear. So that would be, I can hear the air conditioner, I can hear, the dog outside, I can hear my dog's bell ringing, and then I can hear like the fan in the bathroom. So those would be 4 things that I can hear. And then I would have to do 3 things that I can feel. So I would feel my skin, I felt my hair, I felt a blanket, and then I would smell the 2 things. So like, what 2 things could I smell? And I could smell like the air conditioner, I could smell something cooking outside, and then I would have to taste 1 thing, whether that be water, tea, Coke, wine, whatever it was. But this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 literally would bring me into the present instead of trying to think about these overwhelming emotions that I was feeling. It actually brought me down to the present. I'm also telling myself I'm safe, this feeling is going to pass, I'm doing my best. Just this self-talk, this positive self-talk, hearing myself doing this. Along with this actually works, which I never knew, but if you actually hug yourself tightly for 20 seconds, guys, did you know that it triggers the oxytocin, that love hormone that we have? So we can actually give ourselves that love hormone good feeling. All we have to do is just hug ourselves so tightly for 20 seconds and it starts to release it. It's a really nice little high, legal high that we could actually have. Also, journaling, writing down what I was feeling, how I felt right at that moment. Sometimes just naming what I was feeling was an incredible way for me to soothe. And then in the long run, just putting on a nice little candle that smells, reading maybe your favorite book, a stress ball, calming music. I would also put on like something that made me laugh, like a movie that would make me laugh. And those things, like I tell you, they don't go away, you know. you just kind of learn to like soothe yourself and try to redo that anxiety, put down that anxiety pressure. I don't know if maybe some of you might not be aware that you're needing this type of attention due to our coping mechanisms that we learned when we were young. But if so, you're not alone. You're really not alone. That's actually something normal to feel. And if you guys ever need anyone with help with this, please, by all means, you can reach out to me. I'm here to help you because you as well are helping me, also to calm, these kind of anxieties. I hope that this podcast brought a little bit of insight. It was very, very personal. I think this is the most personal I've really gotten with you guys about my own little anxiety and insecurities that I have. I hope to see you next time. Please subscribe if you're liking these. Appreciate you all. Remember to be kind. It does come back twofold. Have a good one, guys, and thank you for listening.